abbreviation or punctuation. And so while the kids are reviewing the message and the agenda, they're also having a grammar lesson built into it too as well. So teachers are using it in various degrees right now that I've observed in the district.
No, I just want to go back to what you had said earlier on a person adding that person to the IEP meetings. I'm actually with you on that one. I think at this point, unfortunately, because of where we stand, we are going to be putting more burdens on our administrators. Sadly, but I mean, when you're talking about putting things now directly into the classroom,
no, 2 weeks.
That the professionals who feel that this is going to help either improve the MCAS scores or our testing or our children's literacy or their math skills or whatever. Because I know when I went to school, when I was in the middle school, I had a language class, and that was just about rules of writing and whatnot. And then I had, another class. So I actually had 2 different English classes. And I've teased that my daughter, my high schooler, has some of the worst punctuation skills I have ever seen in my life. And she's a smart kid. And I think it's coming down to some of what we are not doing. I think we need to get back to some of those basics, and my feeling is for some of these things going into the classrooms, I'm supportive of. But again, adding back, like you had said, that's something that we may just have to say to the state, look, we're trying, and this is how we're adjusting. Michael?
Yeah, I had an opportunity to review the letter of August 29th, and it's the cover to a draft improvement plan. And I assume that's where we are now on the agenda?
That is where we are. Mm-hmm.
Okay. First paragraph, it indicates the information that has led to the draft plan, and it talks about newly released MCAS data. I assume that's the spring data?
It would be the spring data, yes. And while you were out of the room, Dr. Colley shared with the committee that we received raw score data as early actually as May and June. We had some of the English language arts multiple choice data before the teachers actually broke for summer vacation, as well as then discrepancy data that the principals had to review and evaluate. And so while the state has yet to release the district data or the state data, if you will, and we anticipate, they say, mid-September.
That's why I checked before we started.
And if any day after that, then the local district data will be released. Right now it's embargoed. But we are using that data to help make informed decisions. So at our admin retreat in early August, we were able to look at what is all the known data. So it might be MCAS, it might have been SATs, it might have been the advanced placements. There's a lot of data. There's Ames Web data, there's Dibbling, all kinds of progress monitoring that goes on at the elementary level. So I think it was a combination that you were referring to.
And with that note, my understanding of the flow of information is that it's imperative that the school councils weigh in. After review of the draft improvement plan, my suggestion will be to embargo this draft improvement plan, take it under advisement, do not pass it on to the school councils, and look forward to get some input from the school councils as the starting point for creating a district improvement plan. We're not following the prescribed procedure. So that would be my input. I would go further in having walked in on the conversation, and my understanding and your explanation was a Title II grant.
However, I did write.
What I'd like to see is the options. What else can we use that for? We've made some investment. We've got some posters that talk about the HALL acronym, and that's great stuff. And many people have learned that in the buildings. But the statement on the newly released MCAS data, I'm certainly not in any position to weigh in on a district improvement plan without having seen that information.
And I don't want to speak for Dr. Colley, but Dr. Colley did ask the administrators over the summer after our administrative retreat. By law, the site council does not have to hold its first meeting until up to the 45th day after school starts. And Dr. Colley said, please do not wait. And so that the next school committee meeting, the principals will be here before you, sharing their school improvement plans, their updates, after reviewing all the district and school local data that they have taken under advisement. District goals, gone back and revisited, and should have had a site council meeting by the time they come to the next school committee meeting.
Well, actually, the school council webpage on all schools is blank, and I'd like to see that posted well before the next school committee meeting. My understanding is we don't know who's on what school councils, so certainly let's not wait to day 45 for that. I haven't gotten a response on who's on the school councils. And I understand why it's not on the website. That's not my point. My point is we don't know who's on the school councils.
And and to be honest with you, I'm not sure how it's done here, but very often it's done on back-to-school night or on open house night.
Yeah.
And typically the
Yes.
PTOs
Yes.
will help host an election too as well. So it still may be a little premature for that, but somehow, whether it's last year's known council members or new members, the principals are supposed to weigh in and collect some information, so when they come back before you in 2 weeks, they should have had some community collective input.
Just a footnote, the way it's worked in the past is there was lists of who was on the school council, including people that did not consider themselves on the school council. They had long gone into other topics. So I appreciate this new focus on this and look forward to that input before I would really be able to weigh in on this plan, which is well done, well thought out, but there's some elements that, like some input from the school level.
In my brief stint on the school council last year, 2 years out, last year, a few meetings.
Anyway.
And it was, anyway, I'm hungry. It was, we basically got the information that we talked about here the night before. It was top down. And we all would speak and say, whatever, we'd discuss a million topics, but every meeting was exactly the same. And coming to these meetings, because I wasn't on school committee at the time, but just being here, it was just a repeat of everything that was said here, or what was going to be said. So there was no, this is what, the parents in the room, there was no, hey, this is what we want. I mean, that was going on, but that wasn't being passed up. So we weren't getting that information. I know I've brought that up in the past, but it needs to start at the bottom and come up. And right now, and in the past, it's been going down, which, again, people, we heard it, we would be discussing things that actually went home in the backpacks that day, if that makes any sense. So we would actually be looking at a letter that was already in the kids' backpacks who were home because we were there after school. So think about that.
I mean, the premise behind site councils came as a result of ed reform in 1993, and it was really to give more power and autonomy at the local level. There's supposed to be co-chairs. Typically, it's the principal as well as then a community member, a parent, or a staff member can be the co-chair, which are supposed to collectively set the agenda. It is an open meeting, it's public, it follows the open meeting regulations, as well as notes should be generated, minutes should be generated, and those should be made public too as well. So perhaps we need to, talk about that with the administrators and see what kind of training they have with running site council meetings.
Carolina?
Yeah, I was on the council for the West last year, and it's, as our meetings here, it's not attended by anybody but the actual members, and you have maybe 2-3 parents, is my memory. I think there was me and 2 other parents. You have the principal, I think the vice principal at the West, and then 1 or 2 teachers. It's a very small nucleus of people. If you're looking for public input up, down, that forum, in my opinion, is not going to give it to you. And you're right. You come in with the principal's plan of what they see, and we discussed things, and we made suggestions, and we talked about different issues that were part of it. But the reality was the plan was on the table. If you want an inclusive process that you're going to involve the community, you have to advertise those meetings and expand to get the community input, because 3 parents at that meeting are not going to do it. They're not going to develop these sheets. They're not going to take this.
Part of
goal.
the school, at least they're there, so they see what's going on there, so, I mean,
Right.
the input.
May I put something on the table, and this we'll discuss with the administrators. Part of the issue is there's a tremendous amount of data available at the building level and eventually at the district level. How to make that data available to people to digest, to then summarize, to find those areas where you need improvement, because the main goal is identify those areas where you're doing well, identify those areas where you're not, and then try to decide how you're going to tweak it, change it, do something different. So if the principal spends the time, as they should, and staff along with the principal or in small groups, takes a look at the data that's available, yeah, they are going to come to a meeting with some ideas of what those areas of strength or weakness are. Hopefully, they share the data in advance, and I'm just saying hopefully, in advance with those people who are not part of the school community, so parents can also see what the administrators are doing or saying or looking at in order to make these decisions. And then at the end of the day, yeah, by all means, if you're a parent on one of those councils and you have an area that the principal hasn't even brought up, yeah, that should get on the agenda. That should be part of what happens. And if you feel like you're not being heard, just like here, when the parents come and stand up at the microphone and say, hey, I talked about this, didn't make it into the plan, how come? You know, some explanation has to be given. It's not the school improvement plan is the school council's plan. And it's based on the data, and obviously the principal and the school has some control over the data because they collect it. But other than that, it should be the school improvement plan from the school. And unfortunately, sometimes, like you said, the state waits till, I mean, I've been checking the website every day since we started school, because usually right now they tell us, hey, on such and such a date, we're going to release the state data, be ready for it. We're ready to have that letter pretty much ready to go, but we're not supposed to release it until the state says they are going to be able to release it. So, short timeline.
Yeah, once again, I'm clearly, I've gone on record of indicating that I believe the school committee is part of school leadership and should have seen this information. In order for us as a school committee to consider any plans, we should have all information available to us, which is an option. They are public meetings. School council meetings have been posted for the past 4 years that I know of, so they have been posted. More importantly, the makeup of the school council is prescribed by the Reform Act of 1993, and we need to audit that. I do have one question. Who appoints the
Voted.
It's voted.
Parents vote for the parent people that sit on the council. And that usually happens at an open house or something like that. People put in their names, and then people check off a box, and then somebody at the school counts it, and then you get a letter saying
You got it?
you got
Through
it.
the chair, if I could continue. That's correct, and they present to the school committee the results of those ballots, and for 4 years, I've never seen it. I've asked for it, and it's been inaccurate what's been posted by the district. I'm looking to get with the, updated to the School Reform Act of 1993. The school council is the most influential body, certainly at least beyond the school committee, I might add, if not of equal influence, and we need to make sure that's in place ASAP, and then I think it would behoove us to postpone any action on this improvement plan until we get to that point.
Okay, what kind of direction do we want to give Dr. Colley tonight? And you made a suggestion, but I don't know if that's,
If you would like, we will have obviously, a release date, which is imminent, of the data from the state. I would say at that point, we really were hoping that the state would say, go ahead and release it now, so that we could bring the data that's behind this plan. If you would like to schedule a quick meeting when that date is given to us, so you can review the data, see the data, and see how it belongs with the plan, we can do
Why
that.
can't we see it earlier, though? I mean, that's what I'm concerned.
The state says you can't.
We are school leaders.
That's my view. I mean, I think I stated it pretty clearly.
Is there a reg, is there,
That's what I was going to say. What's the regulation?
The state says you can't.
What
It's
do they, does
embargoed.
it say school committee members